Welcome to another edition of Your Impact Attack. That's right, it's Your Impact Attack, the best in the world at reviewing Impact. And who are the ones who are going to review Impact tonight? It is the VBC that you know very well. And that's a lot of initials, like another guy that uses initials that you may have heard about recently this weekend. But who is this VBC? Well,
Well,
I'm
actually,
Jay
two of them.
Williams. The V is for the vet, which they call me sometimes. My tag team partner, Brandon, is the B, and I'm tagging Brandon. Brandon, what's going on?
Not a whole lot, man. Actually, two guys who like to use letters
Hmm.
made news this
Interesting.
weekend.
Interesting. A little bit of news. Yes. Some more overshadowed than others. And of course, the C. Once upon a time was another man named Colin Wysong, but he is no longer with us here on this show. He's making pizzas. But he has been, I would say, Brandon, in this business, right? In this business, when you have to make a substitution, it must be a equal or greater value than what was originally advertised. So instead of Colin Wysong, we give you the chat. The chat is here. Who's here in the chat?
Let's see who we got tonight. We got our buddy Lab Rat. We got Al Robinson, Medium M5, Lizbeth, Retro Rocket Review, Javi Uchida. How you guys doing tonight? Whoop, whoop.
Hey, all my favorites. Well, not all of them. Some of them are still yet to arrive. So we'll see if they arrive. We'll save a seat for them as they file in. We've only been on for a couple minutes, so yes, very excited to talk about. Well, not Impact. That's not what I'm excited to talk about. I'm not even really that excited to talk about the big news, but maybe I am. Maybe I am excited to talk about the big news because even though everybody else is talking about it, I don't know about you, Braden, but apart from everything like detail wise, what we're talking about individuals, we're talking about companies and stuff. I just like the feeling that something happened because so much of wrestling is boring, treading water, status quo. Nobody wants to do anything. Everybody wants to be safe. Tony Khan's out here making a million announcements, but a lot of them are like, okay, you made an announcement. That's nice. That's very nice, kid. Now, go back to play with your toys. That's the sort of a thing. And he brought out, to his credit, a lot of big signings. But one of his big signings, his biggest ever signing, has just, done the unthinkable and gone back to the place that he trashed publicly and ruthlessly for many years as he walked away from wrestling to pursue other things. So, who are we talking about? Of course, we're talking about CM
Our
Punk,
truth.
right? Yeah, our truth, our truth. No, he didn't. He never trashed it. But that was a nice little thing that Triple H did at the press conference, where
That was great. I loved that.
very funny. Triple H is funny. Um, so yeah, so that's and I'll tell you right there. Speaking of guys, speaking of initials, um, chat, you guys might want to get your Q&As ready and everything because this Impact review is going to be real short. Okay, like so
Sadly.
short. This might be shorter than the last recap show they did, which we barely talked about. So yeah. Um,
It's I I don't understand their logic. It's like literally they're just like, all right, we're gonna do as little as possible until the rebrand. Why? Why would you even
and
announce the rebrand until you're like we talked about this before? Why would you announce the rebrand unless you're ready to go and you have all your ducks in a row, everything's set up, and let's launch it now?
you said it. I mean, this would be a lot more acceptable if they hadn't announced it. Maybe they thought it would get the ball rolling so that by the time hard to kill rolls around, that people would have been, have been sufficiently hyped enough that they're going to want to tune in and buy the pay-per-view and whatever to see the return of TNA. Maybe that was the thought process. However, what? Like, that's not how that shit works. You
And
announce this and people are going to tune into the first episode that you air. and they're going to want to see what you're doing. And when they see it's a bunch of nothing, they're going to forget about Hard to Kill when it comes out. They'll already have moved on. You've given them time to move on, which is kind of funny because I think I haven't watched for the past few minutes, but I'm pretty sure Punk hasn't walked out on Raw as live as of this recording yet, which is another sort of a ball drop because nobody's thinking about anything else right now on Monday Night Raw. And then they start with Orton, and that's it's like, okay, yeah, Orton's been gone for long. Not as long as this other guy, though, and we can save him for later, right? Because nobody gives a shit about the Judgment Day. They're tired of seeing the Judgment Day. They don't care about Randy Orton's association with the Judgment Day. There's one thing that people want to talk about, and you want to hit them with it immediately before they have a chance to complain. Not watch a long ass tag team turmoil match that, again, that's a match you put on when you have no plans whatsoever. So in that sense, it's running kind of parallel here with with Impact and their Impact and their management of their rebranding, and this current episode of Monday Night Raw dealing with. I know what they're thinking. They're thinking, let's hold off and people watch the whole show and then we'll bring them out toward the end, right? But still,
go back to the Attitude Era days when they had Austin, their biggest draw. They never saved him to the end of the show. They started him off at the beginning, threaded him through the show with a big conclusion at the end where he did something crazy or he got some heat put on him where you wanted to tune in to see him get his revenge next week.
Right. Yeah. Sonic the Hedge Rat has joined the C. How Cody talking about welcome back Punk, bro? You just got back yourself. Exactly. A couple years ago, you just got back. But I think, yeah, dude, I'll tell you what, personally, well, on this subject, before we back it up, on this subject, I would, if it was me and I'm bringing this guy back, I'm already just loading him up like a pack mule. I'm like, all right, Punk, you're opening the show. And then we're going to see you backstage in these 3 different spots. And then you're going to go out on commentary for a match. And then you're going to, like I'm getting my money's worth. Whatever he's getting paid, he's earning it. I'm going to make him, sub minimum wage by the time I'm done with him because, I want my ROI. So that's what I'm going to do. And that's what you do to people who are, your audience who are starving for content. Like they're looking for some reason to tune on Monday Night Raw. If you watching the Andrew Bello live tweeting and stuff, he doesn't live tweet Monday Night Raw, but he's marking out because Punk is back. So he's sitting there and he's just like, he's already complaining, I don't want to see the Creed brothers, So it's like, he's representative of a large portion of the audience who are tuning in. Interesting to see what number Raw will do. I said on Twitch that I don't think it'll crack 2 million, but it should get close, or it might. But I'm just guessing that it probably won't. What do you think?
I think it's probably about 1.8.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But I hope for more.
If they get more, even better.
All right. So, let's get this out of the way. There's another guy with initials that's much less successful. All right. So some of you may have heard that QT Marshall has resigned from AEW. I debated on whether I should even bring it up because I don't like to give anybody their time in the spotlight, so to speak. But there it is. He resigned. No big loss for them. No big gain for anyone else. I never met the man, but I just intensely dislike him for some reason, and I don't feel like I'm a bad judge of character. You guys in the chat have known me a long time. I don't know what you think about my judgment of character and what I think of people, but I feel like I have a pretty good track record in life and in wrestling, so I'm just going to go ahead and say good luck and not really mean it. Like, I hope he doesn't have good luck. I don't care. Hey, Conan will book him in AAA, so that's great. That'll be great. Enjoy Tijuana. So Brandon, any thoughts on QT Marshall's resignation?
I mean, the only thing that really is kind of alarming and kind of bad news for AEW based off that is when it came to writing TV and putting the shows together, he was kind of Tony's right hand man when it came to that.
Right.
So somebody that's that close to Tony is leaving. That could be indicative of a lot worse problems that are starting to appear.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Just another guy jumping ship. Um, well, anyway, best of luck in your future endeavors. So, yeah, now that that's out of the way, we could continue talking about other things. So, as you guys know, there was one thing people were talking about in Survivor Series, and it was, yes, R-Truth, of course, and also Randy Orton, and also CM Punk. Good booking, where they thought that the question was, will Randy actually arrive, because they had not shown him up until then. They had sort of announced him. Cody hinted at him. They announced him. They had a graphic for him saying he's going to be part of the team, but when the time came, he did not join the rest of the team, so he would have been the last person. And when they finally hit the buzzer, Rhea Ripley comes out. She's got the Money in the Bank, senior Money in the Bank briefcase. They think it's a good idea to cash in on Seth Rollins now while there's a man advantage team for Judgment Day. That's an interesting dynamic. That was a kind of an exciting choice to do that. But Randy Orton's music hits, and I guess they change their mind and don't cash in, or it never becomes official. Randy Orton comes in. Of course, that brief window there gave people the chance to hope, especially in Chicago, that Punk was going to run in at that point, to be the fifth man. So they started chanting for him, and there was a couple of chants throughout the night, for him. So, but then it ends up that Randy Orton is there. He comes in, they win, big high, and then everybody's happy, and they're doing the glory poses and victory poses, and they start to put up the graphic like they're going off the air, and then look in my eyes. So there you go. They hit the music. CM Punk is there. Hell freezes over. Yada yada yada. Triple H posted pictures on social media. Seth Rollins pretending to have a hissy fit. Judgment Day is still in the ring the whole time, but you don't really see what's going on in the ring. You only see the stuff afterwards from like fan cell phone footage that got uploaded and things like that. WWE just focused on Punk walking around and getting hugged by the crowd and hyping people up and doing all that stuff, right? Um, so then later you would see that, this whole time everything's going on. Like JD McDonough and Finn Balor are like all the way in the back of the ring, just sitting there the whole time. while, while everybody, hissy fits are going on and everybody else walking around, and Randy Orton is like, Randy Orton and Punk are like, posing back and forth. Randy Orton's like pointing to his imaginary watch, and Punk's doing the big arms thing. And, none of this was really captured by the cameras, but it is funny. So there you go. And now CM Punk is back. So I'll ask you, Brandon, what were your initial reaction, or where were you when you heard about the CM Punk return?
I was sitting in this exact chair, and I was
Oh,
scrolling through Facebook, and I saw a graphic of somebody like, haha, Tony, look what just happened. And I thought, okay, that's got to be fake. And I go watch the video. No, it's real.
yep. There are a lot of people commenting on the official WWE accounts, posting like a raw picture with Punk on the front. And everybody's like, this isn't real. Is this real? Like, I'm sure some like very lapsed wrestling fans were finding out about it like through that, and being like, what, did somebody Photoshop this? Like, quit playing. April was months ago. So yeah, mommy smoking on the stairs. So, you know, um, that's how that happened. And then, of course there's a flood of, you know, I've been a Punk fan since day one, and I'll flood him. Fuck this guy, he's a cancer, and just all the usual stuff. He's such the lightning rod, and always has been, really. Like even during the times, I don't know how aware you are of this, Brandon, but the absence from the WWE for like 5 or 6 years, basically all the way up until his AEW return. Uh, Anytime there was like some controversial booking or anything boring or whatever going on, crowds would just start chanting CM Punk for like 5, 6 years. Like they just did it. They never really stopped doing it. Kind of the way they never stopped saying what. It's like anytime there was something questionable that WWE was doing on their programming, CM Punk, CM Punk, it's as if to say like he was right, like fuck you guys.
And
Um,
yeah, because before like that promo, I don't think there's really like anybody who called like WWE creative out like that, except I guess you could say Joey Styles, a few years earlier.
right, right. Yeah. So he's been a hot topic this entire time. Going to UFC, a hot topic. Getting beaten up in UFC, a hot topic. Then going to AEW, his big return, hot topic. Then AEW sort of starts to slide. And then we have the infamous Muffins press conference. And then, and the injury that coincided with this, that fanned the flames even more because it's like so many people forgot that he was actually injured at the time and they just thought he had been being held off. And during this time he's going around to places like Impact and visiting people and going to WWE and talking to Triple H and The Miz and all these other people he supposedly had heat with in the past, and goes back to AEW, gets his own show. Show's pretty good. Some good stuff. The roster of Collision seemed very hand-picked, like very and JR even half-ass confirmed it accidentally on a podcast that it was somewhat Punk picked the roster. And you see a lot of those guys, and coincidentally enough, a lot of the guys he picked were some of the guys I really like watching in AEW when I could take or leave most of the rest of them. And then he goes to All In, the biggest show in Wembley Stadium, and then goes out, gets in a fight with Jack Perry, then just goes immediately out in the curtain, puts on the best match that was going to happen that night with Samoa Joe, goes back through the curtain, takes some pictures, goes home, gets fired, and everybody immediately starts wondering, like, what's next? And then it's like, oh, this is all work. Everything's a work, right? Because God forbid any of these marks, fall for something. So they all have to be smarter than everybody else and say, this is a work, this is a work, this is a work. He's the devil, all these other things, all these rumors and everything. And then just shows up at Survivor Series like, hey. And that's the timeline for everybody that hasn't been caught up for 10 years.
Crazy times,
Crazy.
but interesting times. It's probably the most interesting time in wrestling in a long time.
Right. So, yeah, that's the thing. Something happened, especially in the WWE. That's the most exciting part of all of this. Something fucking happened. Instead of all this nothing happening like they usually do, something happened. But if you really notice, yes, Sonic TLDR, what Ben said, wrestling fans be doing too much. Yes, they certainly do. At least internet fans, certainly internet wrestling fans be doing too much. That is true. Regular fans, sometimes they're not doing enough, but they mostly just quietly exist. But if you really notice with the timeline of all these things, if you're really paying attention and you're not doing too much and you're not just marking out and you're not just getting involved in these dirt sheet reports that are all often wrong, or other fan message, comment section discussions where many people are very confidently wrong that CM Punk would ever be back in WWE just hours before he was. if you're not doing that and you're actually paying attention and you understand the lay of the land, and if you can read between the lines and see what's really going on, um, coincidentally, as Vince McMahon is being pushed to the side, certain things are happening, right? Like, it's very interesting that CM Punk comes back now, right? But that's just one thing. Let's look at a smaller thing. Um, Kyrie, right? It's gone for a couple, 3 years, whatever it was. She's been gone, you know, makes her return after it's sort of firmly established that Triple H is back in control. You know, other little hints like that. People that still aren't back because maybe they're not sure. People like Mercedes Moné, aka Sasha Banks. Maybe she's waiting to see, like, is he really gone? You know, like, is he really gone? Because I don't want to come back if he's not really gone. You know, it's like you can see like how certain things are playing out. And I think that's an interesting topic of conversation that most people I don't think are really covering. Like the real difference between the Triple H and Nick Khan era and what is going on, what the business decisions are, what they're moving forward with, where it seems like many things were on pause, you know, like they brought Bray Wyatt back when Vince McMahon was supposedly out, right? I'm pretty sure the timeline of that fits. So it's like decisions that were trying to be made when and where they could, and then McMahon would just pop his head back in and kind of ruin everything. The TV show would go down the tubes, like not only in ratings but also in uh you know, quality content, like very schizophrenic shows.
Yep. If you want to also talk about timeline, Bray Wyatt's last match at the Royal Rumble with LA Knight, that was right around the time Vince pulled his power play.
Right. That's right. So if you're like following along with all this kind of stuff with the behind the scenes and matching it up to other business decisions that are being made, either are being made, aren't being made, talent being brought back, not being brought back, rumored to be bring back and then come back later or never come back. Like if you look at that and then just kind of look at what's been going on with the merger with Vince, with Triple H, with all these things, it makes this a lot more intriguing and interesting, right? So publicly, if everybody remembers the Colt Cabana podcast, nobody, I think, got it worse in that, besides, you know, just the idea of the WWE's medical staff and like all that, everything. But just as far as like wrestlers and stuff, then I would say Ryback and Triple H, they got the worst of it. Punk buried them like unmercifully, very honest with what he says. Now, when I say honest, what I mean is in his side of the story, that's what he believes. If there's one thing I don't think he is, it's a liar. But like anybody, he can just have his side and what he knows and what he believes, with some of which I can corroborate, some of which I can't. But you know, so when you see Triple H there and you see them like, you know, shaking hands and taking pictures after, you know, backstage of Survivor Series or whatever, or when you hear that he went and had a conversation with him at a random Monday Night Raw in Chicago when he showed up, and then who had him kicked out of the building?
Boss man.
Right. Boss man. Right? Vince McMahon says, get him out of here, right? While he's talking to Triple H. I don't remember Punk burying Vince McMahon nearly as bad as the other guys. He didn't really have anything nice to say, but you know, it's very clear that that would be a guy that's big part of the decision, maybe Triple H too, of making sure he's not Even when he's the champ, he's not the guy. Even when he's the champ, he's not main eventing the WrestleMania like he wants or whatever. Like it's still gonna be the Cenas. It's still gonna be, those like it's gonna be other guys who are the guy and close the show, right? And so you know you remove that obstacle, and also WrestleMania's 2 nights. Now that dream, that bucket list item becomes more of a reality, right? So it's just some of these like little details and stuff are kind of fun to look at, when you're trying to piece together like, well, why did this happen? Why does he want to come back after all the stuff he said? Or what is the, why would they bring him back? I mean, he's a cancer. Why would you do that? Why would you do that to your locker room? He's going to make everybody miserable and all this other stuff. um it's like, if you look at what's going on, some interesting coincidences that may be more than just coincidence, right?
Yep. Follow the money, follow the timeline.
Yep. That's it. Yep. And Sonic says Triple H likes jerks like that because he is one, but he has to act more professional now because the position he holds, which is true. However, sometimes, when you are forced to act a certain way because of circumstances like your position or whatever, sometimes that makes you see things in a different light, and maybe that's the thing that can actually get you to change and be less of a jerk. If you've always had no reason to stop being a jerk, maybe you're not going to. But now that the shoe's on the other foot, then you're like, oh, I see now, I understand. Like, hopefully, see, I'm hoping that Triple H has turned over a new leaf. I'm hoping that a leopard can change their spots. I'm hoping that things can be better. And the most important thing for me, because I don't give a shit about the wrestling show, I don't give a shit about the business that they're doing. Of course, other than what I really care about, which is I want everybody working there to be successful, and I want them to not have to go to work hating their job like so many people do, and like so many people have in the past. It's, I said it recently, but the WWE has a way of making you hate wrestling. It just does. And that's one of the reasons that that Punk walked out in the first place, because they were riding him, and when he was hurt and he needed time off, they were just like, just one more show, just one more show. We need you for this one. We need you for that one. The typical wrestling promoter, the typical boss that's like, tries to get the most out of you by paying you the least. It's all that stuff. And he just walked out, and people forget about that he's the one that walked out. They would have kept him and rode him into the ground until, the wheels literally fell off, So what I'm hoping is that, what it seems like to me is that Triple H is taking the NXT environment, the We Are NXT feeling that those talents had, like we're a team, right? And that team environment is being fostered because the WWE is almost like, at that point, if it's Triple H over here and Vince McMahon over here, and Triple H is serving you up finished products to use on your show because he's trying to better the future of the company, and you're shitting on all of them. You're putting Keith Lee in a tennis skirt, and you're putting you're dressing a Killer Cross up like a dildo and all these other things. Like, when that fosters like a unity over here. Now, if the unity feeling from the small portion of the brand now expands and becomes, okay, now we're all, NXT is here, and we're all on the same team here, right? Looking at the Creed brothers tonight in this tag team turmoil match. These Creed brothers on Raw, whatever you think about them, the important thing is they're just the Creed brothers that were on NXT. They didn't get a gimmick change. They didn't get a name change. They didn't get drastically repackaged. They're just the Creed brothers that they always have been. So now people are getting a chance to see them. What's the point of being down here in developmental and developing if everything that you've done is getting thrown in the trash? So if Triple H is in charge of creative, it's not important to me that he writes good wrestling television or has other people write it for him, because Triple H ain't writing shit. Let's be very clear about that. He's not sitting down with a laptop and writing a script for Monday Night Raw. Get that out of your heads. But if he's in charge of the creative and he's fostering an environment where people are at least happy and having fun at work more so than they were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even 3 years ago, then that's what's important to me. And that's why I think that, bring CM Punk back into that, it's going to be a lot more difficult for him to have a problem uh, in that environment the way he did in AEW with a bunch of people that don't know what they're doing and definitely want him gone. There may be people in WWE that don't like Punk for whatever reason, but again, if Triple H doesn't have heat with you after all of that, nobody has the right to have any heat, because nobody's there that he would have had any chance to wrong or offend or anything, right? So, what was my point on all that? Oh yeah, CM Punk is back. Uh, yeah. What do you think, Brandon? And any of you guys in the chat, any questions or anything that you have about this, or you want to hear us talk about? Go ahead.
I mean, you pretty much has covered it all right there. I couldn't say, I really couldn't say it any better.
All right.
I mean, with Triple H, obviously, it looks like he has clearly changed his perspective, because if this were 10 years ago, this definitely would not be happening.
Right. He did have a heart attack during that time too, and almost died. So
yeah,
that changes things.
That does change things up a lot. Yes, it does.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I got to thinking too, like, and this is just how my brain works. I just think of the possibilities and where you can go with this. What if they ended up building to that? I mean, obviously the match is not going to happen. Triple H is done wrestling, but he can still have a representative. Do the Triple H, you still have Triple H and CM Punk getting material off of each other on TV.
Mm-hmm.
What if they did the angle where and this is the angle, but it ends with Punk overcoming it, is they do that petty fuck you over bullshit, that they put it on camera and make it just exaggerated.
Yeah, they could do that. They could definitely do it. Well, there's so many things they could do, right? But one thing we're not for sure. I mean, what I would guess is, I just don't see. We're getting footage from these live events, in Peoria or whatever, of Seth Rollins cutting promos in the ring, and Drew McIntyre doing backstage promos and stuff like that.
Again, and that's great, like, weekend content for when your shows are not running, but you got to make sure you air it on the show so that the people who are watching know what you're referring to.
Right. But I just don't see, much like Brock Lesnar or whatever, I just don't see Punk being at those little Peoria house shows. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be kind of a part-time schedule, I would think. But at first it should be, I'd be booking him heavily, on all the TVs as that I could, that he can make, just to, and the other thing too is, like, he's had some struggles with injuries lately. Of course, that comes with age, that's just wear and tear. He was already worn down. I mean, that's the whole point. He was worn down when he quit, and he was 10 years younger. So, he's had plenty of time to heal up, but, going hard in those main event level matches, in AEW with these different talents or whatever, it takes a toll. So, the weird thing about wrestling is, the less you do it, the harder it is. So he kind of has to have a balance of activity so that he doesn't have one match and then tear something else, like you have to get back into it and get somewhat acclimated. You can't take too much time off in between ring appearances. Roman's able to do it, but he doesn't have like an injury history.
Right. He's got to find that. Yeah. You got to find that balance between not getting rusty while staying rested.
Yes. And Todd Brantley has a question. Will the show still be called Impact Attack when they go back to TNA? Probably. We might get some new graphics or whatever, but if they still call their show TNA Impact, then we don't have to change our name necessarily.
That's correct. I think it's going. They're calling it TNA Impact Wrestling once the switchover happens.
Yeah. So. So yeah. So that's that is we're definitely we're intrigued. We're intrigued. Um a lot of people don't like Punk. I definitely get that. I've documented my history with Punk on several occasions. I don't need to redo it again. Uh if you're really that interested, I suggest channelattitude.com, $4.95 a month. You can hear all of my CM Punk stories. Of course, you will have to go back and listen to every single episode to hear them because I don't remember which ones they were. So you'll just have to comb through all of it. But yes, it doesn't. My personal feelings on the matter, not important. What's important is something exciting happened in wrestling, and it wouldn't really matter who it was if they did something this big and they were interested in delivering on these big things like this. Unfortunately, the fact is there are very few people who could be something this big. So it kind of does have to be him. But I'm just happy that they're doing those things that the people want, and Triple H says something very, very important, that if he means it, then he truly, truly does fully understand now what his role is and what the health and future of the business is, when he said, if our fans want it, if the WWE fans want it, then let's go and we'll figure out the rest from there, which is exactly right. Because
Yep.
obviously there was no way that you could have a long-term plan for him in place already, but who cares? Let's just bring him in, get the pop, get the buzz, then we'll figure shit out. And that's fine. And that's all it needs to be. Wrestling should be spontaneous. Hey,
Yep.
what if this shit was real and you signed somebody?
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. What if this were real? How would that be? How would that play off? Where would you go from there?
Yep.
And
So
I also want to put over WWE because something they've done that I've not seen them do in a long time. They actually sold a big move when they had JD McDonough take that RKO off the top of the cage. He came out tonight in the neck brace, took another RKO, and they mentioned that he's being looked at by trainers. You never see that. You never see that.
yep. I mean, come on, guys. So ball's in their court and they're already like fumbling it. Like they haven't turned the ball over, but they fumbled it several times already tonight, just by the fact that he's still not fucking on TV right now. Are we gonna wrap our show before Punk shows up? I don't know, but
Maybe we'll see.
yeah. Regardless, let's get to Impact real quick, and while we're doing that, I'll remind you guys once again, if you want to do I'm down for a Q&A after we talk about Impact. If there's anything you guys want to talk about or ask, or even if it's still regarding CM Punk or if it's anything else, we really want to hear from you guys. Chris Winland had a question on Twitter. Brandon, remind me to get to that. We'll answer that one.
I'll pull it up
And
right now.
I remember the question, but I don't want to forget to answer the question. So, definitely, guys, think about what you want to talk about, ask anything. We'll do a little AUA, and we'll just burn through this fucking Impact Thanksgiving special. It's a Thanksgiving special here at Impact, and Matthew Raywald and Tom Flanagan, or whatever the fuck his name is here to host it for us. While we're all pigging out. I hope you all had a good Thanksgiving, by the way. um Obviously holidays are a tricky time. You don't want to say things like, hey, have a happy Thanksgiving to somebody who doesn't, like that. You know how it is. Not everybody has the perfect family situation to have a nice dinner. Sometimes the holidays are really hard for people. So I hope you had a great Thursday last Thursday, and it probably was greatly improved if you didn't watch this episode of Impact. Like anything else you could have been doing was probably better than this. All right. So Uh, we're gonna start by going all the way back 15 years to 2008. It is a this, and by the way, this, I think this entire episode is turkey suit matches, right? Like literally every match has the stipulation of if you lose, you have to put on the turkey suit or you'll be fired in some fashion, right? That's basically it. Um,
Which in the 2008 version, I'll at least give him the credit of the Motor City Machine Guns were given Foley a hard time, so he was motivated to want to get rid of them.
yeah, right. Oh, and by the way, Liz, if you're talking about this big white blob where they erase someone, that's the I think that's the exclamation point for the impact attack.
Yeah, that's actually part of the graphic.
Yeah, this is just a little square that's overlaid over it, but again, we could still get a bit the Big Ray will make a new graphic. He'll make a new graphic. It'll be all right. So, but
I
anyway, yes.
actually got a thumbnail this week too.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Nice Thanksgiving thumbnail, in case you were finally getting over Thanksgiving, you got all hungry again. So, all right. But anyway, this will make you lose your appetite. It's 2008. Rhino versus Sheikh Abdul Bashir. Does everybody remember who that is? I remember who it is, but do you guys remember who that is?
I remember he
Um,
came out to the ring and he had jet engines in his theme music, and they took that away after a couple of weeks because they're like, "Oh yeah, that's a really bad idea."
it was a great idea. Come on, it was 7 years removed from that point. Um, but yeah, yeah. But yeah, so that's that is Davari, if you remember. Davari still jacked to this day for no reason, just walking around jacked for no reason. Still wrestles a little bit, I think. I saw him in TNA, or not TNA, NWA last. I don't know if he's still there. He went to be a producer for WWE for like 6 weeks or something, and then he went back to NWA, or I don't know, whatever he's doing. He's still looking good. He's still ready to go. Kelly is the third man in this triple threat, in which the winner gets $25,000, and the loser wears the turkey suit. So, yeah,
Which at least they gave something to the winner.
that's right. Yeah, like why are we doing this? It's unlike the War Games match. No one gets anything.
Right. Like what? Yeah. What were the stakes in that? Bragging rights? Okay. That's. I mean, I'll give them at least some credit. They tried to make it like an emotional thing for Cody, but
Right.
that wasn't really built up to. That wasn't really like the story going into the match. Like you didn't build those stakes for them to mean something when you paid it off.
Well, all you really need, I mean, look, anything's better than absolutely nothing. So even if you just tell the audience like huge cash bonus for the winners of this match, okay, then there's your motivation for trying to win. That's all. Cash bonus. Fine.
Right. And if
Everyone understands cash bonuses. It's not the sexiest, most exciting, dramatic pro wrestling thing, but hey, cash bonus, right? So that's what they did here in 2008 that they can't do in 2023. And Rhino is your winner. He wins $25,000. I'm sure you can buy a lot of cheese whiz with that. And the loser is Alex Shelley. And he doesn't want to put on the suit like no one ever does. And then Mick Foley comes out and takes a long way around of getting him to try to put on this suit. And yeah, eventually he puts on the suit. And then he tries to assault Mick Foley. And then Mick Foley beats him up. So that's good, right? This sucked back then. It sucks today. Not only just because this is recycled content that we have to watch, but it really exposes like the wasting of a certain talent. Cruise control. So. Yeah. So there you go. I mean, what are your memories of this, if any? And what did you think looking at it here again?
I thought it was kind of at least good for Alex Shelley to get the rub from Mick Foley and be like in a long-winded promo segment with him, but if you're trying to elevate Shelley, I don't think it really did much or anything for him unless they ended up turning him heel, but then kind of went nowhere too. But at least they were trying something. Like they put him in the ring with Foley, and they got an extended promo segment, but Foley just ate him up, and he had nothing.
Which was the only logical outcome.
Right, because
but I'm
Alex
sure
Shelley.
Foley learned. I'm sure Foley learned a lot being in the ring with Alex Shelley. You know, like I'm sure he, even though he ate Alex Shelley alive, I'm sure that was just Alex Shelley's, like, that was his way of helping young upstart Mick Foley and like really making him a name in this business, being in the ring with him. You know, like so many other people that he would go on to do that for over the years up until today.
Dude, Alex Shelley was making legends even back then.
That's
Even
right.
legends that were
Yeah,
already established.
that's right. That's right. So, um, okay. So now we move on to our only original and new piece of content, which again is probably 3 weeks old, and CM Punk had to watch this backstage. 2023 Thanksgiving Gravy Train Turkey Trot. This is the Good Hands and Champagne Sing and Jay Vidal for some reason versus Jake something, Mike Bailey, Johnny Swinger, and PCO with Gia on commentary.
As soon as like the Shawn all them came out and they said it was Jay in the match. All right, he's taking the pin. Why else would he be in there?
Oh, so that's what he was there for. Yeah, he took the pin and most of the offense too. I don't. There wasn't a lot of action from the other guys. Um. So yeah, of course, Jay Vidal loses and he has to wear the suit, and of course he doesn't want to. Uh. So yeah. So I'm just thinking, like, this is, I mean, Cicero, but close enough to Chicago that they like to claim it's Chicago. Certainly, John Schuyler claimed it was Chicago, you know, on his promo down to the ring. Um, so this is what these fans get. Survivor Series fans get Punk, but these guys actually had Punk in the building, but they got this. So funny, right? It's funny when you think about it in those terms. And like also the report that Impact made Punk an offer, like a big money offer, and they said he was great to deal with. I mean, obviously, except for the part where he said "fucking no," because you just did this thing with a turkey suit. So yeah, that was that. So that's pretty funny, I think, in retrospect. Um, but let's go all the way back to 2016. Uh, with Robbie E versus Grado. And on the outside, yeah, Aiden O'Shea as the special guest enforcer, which I'm sure everybody's like, who? You know,
You don't know who
because
Aiden O'Shea is? You been living under a rock? What the fuck? Get it together, man.
sorry,
That dude's like the most relevant guy out there.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying to know who he is. No, I definitely know who this fucking guy is, but not for the good reasons that you'd expect. Like all of his great gimmicks, such as Jay Bradley and Ryan Braddock, right? That was his WWE name when he was just some fat white JBL wannabe, even going so far as to use the lariat as a finisher. Um, but this guy, like, if you really think about this, uh, around the time this guy was signed to a developmental, this is,
Oh wait, that was Jay Bradley. I had no idea that's who that was.
oh yes, I thought
I thought
you,
I legit thought that was just some random dude who just kind of like showed up.
no, this is Jay Bradley. He's still Jay Bradley. He's part of the Fixers on NWA as well with Wrecking Ball Legursky or whatever that guy's name is. So he's still doing stuff. Still fat. And the he was, yes, this was that guy, and he is indicative and, emblematic, any words you want to use, of the kind of talent that was sort of, this is what was being signed back in 2006. Like, I was right there at ground zero when uh just four bland white dudes from the Northeast all came in at the same time, got contracts because Tommy Dreamer or whatever gave them contracts. And, guys like Eddie Craven, who never went on to be anything. The bad seed Sean Osborne, who never went on to be anything, and he passed away. Um, who was another? Mike Cruel, who never went on to be anything. And who was the other? Oh, Sean Spears. You may have heard of him. He kind of went on to be a little bit of something, but never as much as he could have. But yeah, even though, but that was like, that's what was getting scouted. Or this guy, this fucking guy, Jay Bradley, right? Just a big undefined slab of white meat just sitting around taking up somebody's developmental paycheck. Like, this guy was never going to make any money. He was never going to be anything. Like, you just look at him and he's just a waste of size, and his size wasn't even that big. Not when you got guys like Matt Morgan running around, or, a Nathan Jones, or, like those type of guys. This guy is not big. But yeah, just this, like, he's the poster boy for what wrestling was fucking like back in 2006, 7, 8. Just nothing going on. And these guys were dicks too. Like, all of them, like this guy fucking, he kicked my friend in the head in a match for whatever reason, because he's a fucking asshole. So fuck him. And that's why you get to stand out here with your bowler hat and your fake cigar, and while you referee a turkey soup match. That's more than you even deserve, but that's what you got. So, anyway, yeah,
Yeah,
Grado loses.
I always thought he was super bland too. Like, why does this guy even have a job? Like, there's 50 people who could do what he does.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for what it's worth, despite me saying all that, because I'm the fairest man, the stuff he's doing as one half of the Fixers is the best stuff he's done. It's his best version of him. He's more entertaining than he's ever been. It took till he was old and fat and on NWA for him to finally realize it. But hey, at least better late than never, right? Nah, never's better for the rest of us. Late's only good for him. But anyway, yeah, Grado loses this match. But as Liz said, I want to see someone just put the damn thing on and be like, fluff and hell, it's not a big deal. And this is the closest we're going to get to that, because Grado just puts it on. Of course, he just, starts strutting around and dancing and doing what Grado does. So why would he care if he puts the turkey suit on? He barely hesitated.
Right. Like, yeah, that whole thing is right up Grado's alley. Like, he'd be like, fuck it, I'm going to have fun with it.
Right. Let's rewind it back 10 years. It's the 10-year anniversary of Rockstar Spud's Thanksgiving dinner. I just wrote a WTF down on my notes for this. Like, this is what passed for. This is why you got kicked from channel to smaller channel to smaller channel, is because of shit like this. No one would tune in to ever watch this. Yeah, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to relive it.
It was just so bad. It was so bad. The food fights are always terrible. They're always terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just it's hard not for it's hard it's hard not for grown men to act like children in a wrestling environment, right? Like, it's already hard enough. Because what you're doing is so silly. Like, that's probably why it's so prevalent that people are always doing goofy stuff in pro wrestling, because We've had the sports entertainment era for 40 some years, and you know, what you're doing is ridiculous. So it's hard not to get sucked into that. But even this, it's the worst thing I've ever seen. 2017, the Turkey Trot. Eli Drake introduces the participants in this match. Um, it's Angel Garza, who is now one half of Ghost Scratch in NXT. Allie, who you may know as the Bunny, who's a free agent. Bunny. Normal Eddie, because even though he was still like not the most shredded ever, at least he wasn't wearing his t-shirt and matches. So we're not going to call him Fat Eddie here. We'll just call him Normal Eddie. Next to a guy who really is fat, Dick Justice, and Falaba. Those are two extremely fat. They're fat enough for everyone here. And then
that was again, that was the first time I've seen that. That Dick Justice, is that the same Dick Justice that Ben talks about?
yes,
Very nice.
that's him. There aren't a lot of competing Dick Justices on the indies, thankfully. Retro says Allie, who we know as Cherry Bomb. No, nobody knows her as that. You know her as that. All right. The other team is Caleb Conley. Okay.
Caleb with a K.
Chris Adonis. Laurel Van Ness. El Hijo del Fantasma, who was on Survivor Series in a match this weekend against Dragon Lee. And some guy who I only remember as being the shits named KM. Can you refresh any of us on KM, Brandon? Brandon is racking his brain. In case you were wondering about the silence, he's
I'll take people back. I don't know for 1,000, Becky.
Yes. She doesn't know him either. So yeah, this fucking guy. This is what was going on in 2017 as they were on one of those smaller channels that they were kicked to. I forget which one this was. I don't know if it was Pop or if it was Destination.
I want to say it was Pop.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't Pop as in popular. Let's put it that way. It was, this match was, it was what it was. Normal Eddie pins Chris Adonis, and of course he doesn't want to wear it, and the suit, and he tries to walk out. And as he's walking out, now this is the I wrote this down because I had to, because Jeremy Borash is in the ring. Like, this is when he was like the ring announcer, right? And he's like, he's saying, he's trying to get him to come back to the ring, like, you made an agreement, and all this stuff. And he says, this is the actual line that he says on television, okay? Just to let you know how serious we're taking this. And it's funny too, because of what some of the people in this match, how many of these people have gone on to better things. He says, Christopher Adonis, people are getting hungry. Please return to the ring. People are getting hungry, Chris. Come on. I know that's what you really care about, why you don't want to wear this turkey suit. So yeah, he threatens that Eli Drake will have to wear the suit if Chris Adonis doesn't, which somehow that holds a little bit of sway. Like, I guess he would care if Don't worry, guys. TNA's coming back, okay? We don't have to worry about what Impact Wrestling was doing anymore. It's like, can we get a murder, please? Like, I don't want to see this anymore. People are getting hungry. Can we please get a murder?
There's been a murder in Savannah.
All right. Well, it's time for the main event. 2007 Turkey Bowl. Samoa Joe versus Chris Sabin versus AJ Styles. I'm sure that if you didn't tell somebody this is a Turkey Bowl, they might get intrigued, right, about this. So of course Styles loses this match, and then Kurt Angle and Tomko come out, and then they team up with Styles and they have a brawl with Samoa Joe and the Outsiders, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, who are wearing like t-shirts and baggy jeans and just look ridiculous here. This is a sad state of affairs, but a lot of people would consider this the glory years of TNA. And meanwhile, you know, look at who we're talking about: Kurt Angle, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall. The weakest person in this is Chris Sabin, and obviously we're talking about today. That's Goldberg 98, basically. So really, you had all the stars here in this one thing. And in 2007, WWE was trying to get Jay Bradley over, and yet look where these companies are now.
I will say they at least tried to give Samoa Joe the rub from Hall and Nash, because the way he was positioned as basically the guy talking and he led them to the ring, like they were trying. At least they were trying.
They tried.
I mean, I'm not going to say it was the best results, but at least the intent was there and they tried and put effort into it.
Yeah. Yeah, no Disco Turkey, Lab Rat. They left that one off. I guess he just hasn't been putting Impact over enough on K100. He probably keeps forgetting it exists, as many people do. But hey, Impact Wrestling will soon just be TNA Wrestling again, and then we can all go back to those glory years of 2007. Let's see who will turn down a big offer from them next. but you know, that was your show. If you cared about reliving these classic matches, the only person I can even think would probably legitimately sit there and watch this would be Retro Rocket Review. He'd be the only person. I don't think he did. So this was probably was this worse than last year's Thanksgiving? Because I think they showed at least half of these on last year's thing too.
Yep. They showed. I remember I saw that in a special. I saw that in a special. I saw that in a special. Point where like I legit just muted it and like I've already seen this.
Damn shame. So only another 6-7 weeks before we get TNA back. Can't wait to see how they'll handle it. But yeah. So that's an F. But whatever. I don't mind that they're just doing a clip show. That's not the point. What they should have done instead was, instead of going back and looking at all these fucking ribs, maybe they could have just said some of the things that they were thankful happened in the company and showed some good highlights from everything, not just whatever they thought was good. Not that it would have been much better, but if you were to put a serious spin on it, like we're really trying to put together and make a case for why you should watch this show, like we're capable of these things,
And you can do the Turkey Bowl recap, but like do one, not the entire show.
Yeah, one little joke Turkey Bowl deal. And if you had that one that they put at the end, if that was your one, where you're like, wow, look, even Joe Styles used to be here. And I mean, they wouldn't think anything of Chris Sabin now unless they were watching the current product. But, that's still, I would have gone with that. And then you could do the Thanksgiving theme and you could have promos from people on whatever they want to talk about. You don't have to do I'm thankful for that. You don't have to do that. You could do that. Just let people just get some, you got everybody in the building for your taping. Get some promos from everybody for the Thanksgiving special. What's wrong with that? So, yes. And Hobby points out that this week's will be the IPWF special. Yeah, just in case this wasn't enough of a rib, we're gonna go full rib. We're gonna go full rack of ribs for the IPWF, which is always guaranteed to be the shits. So look forward to that. But yeah, so that's the end of the review portion. So it's time for anybody that had their questions to ask. If you want to get your question answered, or if you want to bring up a topic you want us to rant about, that's fine. Or if you just want to say whatever, just now's the fucking time, as Oren Ishii said. But first, we had a question from Chris Winland on Twitter. So if you're still here, Chris, get you that answer. He was asking about like wrestling tights. Like, why are the bikini trunks, like, why is that the prevailing wrestling attire?
Sex appeal.
Throughout
you get a
history.
guy at the great. You got a muscle guy with a great physique in that. Women are gonna love it.
Right. So that's well, I mean, that's how you can justify it in today's thing, but is that really the impetus for it? My answer would be there's a couple reasons. So number one, obviously wrestling is derived from, the earliest forms of combat sports, which, the Greeks generally credited with coming up with these techniques. And they would wrestle basically naked, I believe. And that is so, I assume, I'm not a historian, but I assume that is so that you cannot hide anything on your person that could unfairly influence the outcome of the fight. No weapons, no nothing. It's two guys butt naked. Who's better? And you guys can go ahead and make your jokes now.
I'm sorry, I'm having a. Remember the episode of Beavis and Butthead where they put Spanish fly in that one jock's milk? And then Beavis and Butthead get all freaked out, thinking that the dude's all horny, and then they end up going to gym class with him, and they wrestle, and then Coach Buzzcut's like, "All right, kids, we're gonna be doing wrestling. There's nothing. Man is at his most man in wrestling."
Well, I don't remember it strongly, but I mean, I did watch a lot of that show. So, but yeah, so there you go. That is the origin of all combat, all man-to-man combat, and then as things go on and wrestling becomes like, an Olympic sport or whatever, and then further on into pro stuff, similar, you're not going to have guys' dongs flopping around and, everything like that, but you're going to wear the least amount of clothes that you can so that everybody can see that you don't have, like, if you don't have if you're wearing a long sleeve shirt, that you didn't just wear like a metal arm guard under there so that you could grind it into people's faces or let alone hit them with it. Like, just, you're out there in the open. It's hand to hand. It's fair as possible. That's the idea of wearing like the briefs trunks or the wool diaper, as we used to like to jokingly call it when you see all those old ass matches, right? The Lutezes and stuff. So it's like, that's the real reason. Very, very revealing, so that you cannot be cheating, and also so that no one could use your clothes as an advantage. Like, if you're wearing a shirt or pants or whatever, that could give somebody some leverage or things, like you could choke somebody with their own shirt, theoretically. In fact, the Taz mission is a judo move that's illegal, but it requires a judo gi to be effective. The pro wrestling move is kind of bullshit, but with the judo gi, it cuts off your carotid artery, And I know this because someone demonstrated it to me on my own T-shirt. Obviously, I don't wear a judo gi, but he showed me. Um, he was like, "This is how it works," and he used my shirt to choke me. And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's how it works." So if you have more clothing, your opponent can use it against you. So these are all the real shoot reasons why you would wear trunks. Now, obviously, and because his question was, uh, because his question was about like why people would wear that even if they're not in good shape, right? So like it's, but it's that would be the traditional answer. Like now, if you're wearing trunks, you know, like Joe Gacy's a good example of a guy that's gross and nobody wants to look at his, you know, naked body, but he's just wearing these trunks instead of being fully clothed like he has been and he should. Perhaps that, you know, people think that you're taking it more seriously because a lot of main event guys that look like Randy Orton wear like the trunks. And I remember when I was at OVW and Roadkill was like he was getting like he was trying to like redo his gimmick and they told him like, you know, we want to get rid of this Amish thing, and he just wore trunks and boots. But that guy, you've seen Roadkill, that guy's fucking gross and hairy and bald, and nobody wants to see that shit. So he really did look like one of these guys from like the 60s, you know, and just being gross. And it was a rib on him. Like they were never going to do anything with Roadkill. Do you think Johnny Ace was ever going to call Roadkill up and be like, "All right, kid, it's your time now. It's you and Cena"? Like that was never going to happen. They ribbed him. They made him wear the diaper, and he was out there in OVW wrestling and house shows in fucking Elizabethtown in a fucking diaper. So, you know,
And the Amish thing
that
worked great for him.
yeah, it did, but they didn't care. They weren't ever going to let that get over, and it wasn't really going to get over, but it definitely had the best chance to get over. So yeah, and as Sonic says, you know, wrestling just drawers has never stopped anybody from cheating in pro wrestling. But that's the point, right? Like the idea is you think, okay, there's no way, you know, he's basically naked out there. There's no way, but he still snuck something in his tights, some foreign object, and he's going in the tights for the foreign object, and that becomes a thing in of itself. It's not about what they actually do; it's about what they're supposed to do, right? So that's why, um, you know, that's basically the whole reason for it. I mean, it's evolved into whatever up until all the way to what Brandon says today, where it's a sex appeal. Like if you've got a physique like Orton, you're gonna show that shit off. Or if you've got a physique like CM Punk, you're still gonna show it off. It's just not gonna be as good, but you know, that's what people, that's the wrestler uniform. So, you know, there you go. I hope that answers your question, Chris. And if you have any follow-up questions, just let us know. All right. Who else has a question? Anybody? Looking through. Looking through. Apparently Punk's still not been on the show yet. Um the guy from Gallus with his high-waisted trunks. Steiners did look badass in their swimsuit looking attire. Yep. So Sonic says, "There I go, being the wrestling mark I was talking about earlier." Man, I'm just glad to see Sonic the Hedge Rat. I don't see enough Sonic the Hedge Rat these days. We need more Sonic the Hedge Rat. Quit being the CM Punk of the chat. Okay? Disappearing for years at a time. All right. So, yeah, Randy and Dom are wrestling. Dom has his whole body covered up because his physique is shitty. Randy Orton looks like $8 billion. Of pharmaceuticals, and he's wearing the trunks. So there you go. Here's a question. Was the best wrestler named Dick Justice?
Because that dick brings you justice while you bring justice to that dick.
I'm going to say no, but I'm not thinking of the best one right now, whatever that is. There's some good ones out there. But yeah. All right. Well, not really getting anything, and I'm not going to tread water like the WWE for 10 years waiting to make a splash. So that's not fair. They've tried to make a splash. Remember the time Brock Lesnar tipped the ring over with a bulldozer? That was fun. Everybody liked that. When he dressed like Jimmy Wang Yang and drove a bulldozer to the ring and flipped it over and still lost to Roman. That was a good time. Mm, so okay, well then, that being said, I guess that will do it. We'll get out of here with a short one tonight. Apologize on behalf of Impact, soon to be TNA Wrestling, for their terrible content. Hopefully, we gave you a little bit more. And yeah, that should wrap it up. So, Brandon, tell the people where they can find you.
As usual, you can catch me on Twitter, or as the kids call it these days, the X, at Transarchustia. I am also on Twitch at twitch.tv/Miss Tia the Transarchus. And you can also catch me on Substack at HMG Brandon, and also here every Monday for the Impact Attack. Whoop, whoop.
I wonder if the kids will continue to call it the X, or will the X just turn into Facebook where there are no kids? But you can find me on, well, you could have found me on Facebook before my account got hacked and stolen. You can't find me there, but when you could find me at Opinion Haver. And if not there, then on the X or Instagram or any of the other social media platforms, whatever you type in on Google Opinion Haver, you'll know it's me. You can find me on the Next Level Wrestling Review with Big Ray Hernandez every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. He's been posting stuff about CM Punk all weekend. He's definitely marking out. And you can find me on the Sunday Morning Wreckage, where the PWC boys, Christopher Ames and Jimmy T, and I convene to talk about the show that they used to have CM Punk on it, or specifically was made for CM Punk, and how it's doing now. Spoiler alert, not good. But that's every Sunday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern also. And then check out Wrestling with Rip Rogers, live Q&As every Friday, except when it's not. And check out Stevie Richards, whose video about, his brutally honest reaction to CM Punk's return has got over 100,000 views in just, a day or two, and continues to, you get a sense from his comment section of the comment sections all over the internet about what people are they just can't wait to tell you what they think about it. So check out Stevie Richards. Check out his he's pointing you towards some Black Friday deals on some good fitness equipment, stuff to check out. Portable fitness equipment, his latest video, I think. He's on Patreon. With his Patreon, he gives a full reaction and breakdown of the CM Punk return, which is, the return itself is only lasts about 2 minutes of airtime, but he gives a 7-minute video. So if you're not a Patreon subscriber and you want to see Stevie's reaction, check that out. Stevie Richards all day, every day. And he's got, of course, his podcast, the Big Mike Barron's Big Fitness Show, all that stuff. Got his tech channel. He's doing too much. Stevie Richards, like wrestling fans, as Sonic the Hedgehog says, is doing too much. So that's that. And will Punk have ice cream bars? He's the only one that can make it a reality now. And I feel like he's just the kind of vindictive prick that will make that happen. It's probably going to be in his contract. So, and I hope he does, because I'll be his truly number one fan if he does that, because they've never been able to recreate those ice cream bars. The secret was in the vanilla cookie. I don't know what they put in that, but it was perfect. But whether this show is perfect or not, it's time to wrap it up. So for Brandon, I'm the vet, and I don't have a sign off.